Sure, thank you. So, all right. So, a very good evening to everyone present here. And we're really excited to have all of you today. And it is our pleasure that you've joined this session. So, today, before starting the meeting, just a quick note that please ensure that your microphones are muted for the entirety of the session. And in case you have any doubts or questions, you can just ping it in the chat box. And we'll make sure to take up those during the question and answer session, which will be towards the end of the meeting. So, once again, a very good evening to you, Ankita. And it is our pleasure to have you today.
Thanks. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Josh. So, just to give a brief about Ankita, she has venture capital, consulting, and global startup expansion. Currently, the part of founder's office at India Accelerator, where she's helping scale one of India's largest multi-tech ecosystems. Prior to this, she's also spent years in the startup ecosystem in the UAE, and on her experience in building markets. She's also worked on Consulting Foundation. With this diverse background and with Ankita brings in a very holistic, shortlist ready perspective as in how to build a very strong profile and how to stand on grounds with a very professional profile. So with this, and
Really sorry, Ami, you are not audible now. Yeah, Ankita, you can start now. Thank you for joining this meet, and we know you have an experience with EY, and then now you're working at India Accelerator. And thank you for spending your Saturday with us. And you can start now.
No worries. Thank you so much for inviting me. Hello to everyone. I'm Ankita. I'm not going to spend another few minutes talking about myself, but just one line. Right now I'm in the VC ecosystem, but I've worked in consulting before. So somewhere I know a bit of what mistakes I had made when I had made my resume and through the interview process. So I just wanted to share a few thoughts that I ended up understanding quite late in my journey, but it is going to help me, of course, at some point in my career again when I plan to switch. So I've created a small presentation of about 15, 16 slides where we'll just have a quick conversation about how a resume works. It's a very simple document. You all must have prepared it at some point already. We'll just talk about what consultants usually look for in a resume. And I would like this to be interactive. So at any point, if you have any question or thought, please feel free to put it in the chat or unmute yourself. I would be happy to have an open discussion with all of you. I'll just present my screen. Just let me know if it is visible.
Yes, it is visible.
Great. Thank you so much. So what the screening process actually looks like in a consulting firm is that first your resume goes through something called an ATS. Again, it's a very familiar term. It's a tracking system. It's a digital layer that has been created to kind of automatically figure out certain keywords from your resume, if your skills match with the job description, which industry you are from. So there are some very initial checks that this digital layer does. It may or may not end up rejecting a resume. Usually it does, but the layer is only required for doing some bit of keyword matching. If there's a complete difference in the job role and what your experience is, it might possibly end up rejecting it. But this is why there's something called an ATS compliant resume that we all prepare. So this is the digital layer. Post this, an initial recruiter scan happens where the recruiter would go through some quick, red flags or some kind of checks in terms of industry match with the job description, as well as if the formatting is fine, if there are any typos or if the language is not understandable, they would do that initial recruiter scan. And then it goes to a consultant, somebody who's more experienced in the job that you're applying for. somebody who might be a potential member of your team, who would then look for spikes in your resume. So spike is anything that is a good number or some kind of a different thing that you've done, all your impact in terms of your college, your job, whatever you've done, your skills. So that consultant would spend some time on figuring out spikes and seeing your career trajectory. Have you taken any breaks in your career? What kind of jobs have you done before? So this is typically the funnel of elimination that we usually see in a consulting firm. But now let's also talk about what is the vibe that is in the screening room. So when a consultant is screening a resume, it's not part of his KRAs or KPIs. It's not their job to hire, but it is a part of their job to kind of find the right candidates to join their team. So there's no particular incentive or benefit for somebody to screen a resume, but they do it as a part of their daily activities. So you will find the vibe to be very busy, boring, tired. Out of 10 things in a day that a consultant does, this would be the 10th thing that that person does. So while we feel that the consultants spend, say, 60 to 90 seconds, by the way, that's a myth. They don't usually spend that much time in screening a resume. They make their opinion in the first 10 seconds where they see some keywords, they're able to identify some highlights from your resume. And that assumption that they create in the first 10 seconds is then validated through the next 30 seconds where they would do a little deeper scan of your resume. So technically you have about 30, 40 seconds to impress the target recruiter who is your consultant or manager or any senior person in a consulting firm. So let's talk about what this would mean for us, when we are creating our resume. So a normal resume, I think all of you know, have three main things. So one is personal information, so all your contact details, your email, your name, everything. Then a bit about your education, so your GPA, which university you've studied from, the tenure of your studying period, and your work experience. So these are three major things that are there in any normal resume and a consulting resume. But if we zoom out a little bit, there's a bit of difference between a normal resume and a consulting resume. So in normal resumes, you have to prove that you're qualified for the job, anything. So I work in a VC. I see applications like this every day where people apply. We don't require a consulting resume per se, but a normal resume shows that, hey, this person is qualified for the job that he or she has applied for. But in a consulting resume, they look for skills or certain parts of your resume that prove that you're extraordinary compared to your peers. I still remember in my interview for EY, which was in the last round, the director had said that you had done X, Y, Z different. That's why we've taken you ahead in the journey. So they want to see what you've done different. They get tons of applications. For you to stand out, you need to have certain consulting ready skills that they would like to see. So we'll break that down a little bit. I'll talk a little more on the difference between a normal resume and a consulting resume. You can look at it like an input versus output kind of a difference. So if you see in colleges, we used to arrange a lot of fests. So I called different companies to get sponsorship for our college cultural fest. This fits into a normal resume. But what impact did it have? What kind of action or result did you bring by doing this? That's what comes out in a consulting resume. So you secured 5 lakhs by pitching it to 20 plus brands, ensuring the fest's budget increased by the 30% budget increase was fully funded. So this also shows the impact that you've created. So whenever you make your resume, you need to kind of also understand what did you accomplish? What is the outcome? Was that outcome positive? How impactful was it to the project or the company or the fest or the work that you're doing? Were the results impressive enough? Now that's stage 2. So you might have done something and you might, over explain that in your resume, but does that impact really matter? And were the results fact-based, measurable, and verifiable? So if somebody were to call your company or call your university and ask, did you do this? It should be the right information. So that essentially is also the difference between a normal resume and a consulting resume. Not saying that a normal resume should not cover these things, but consultants, they usually look for all these numbers and the numeric impact that you've had. So even in MBA colleges, when you apply, they look for these kind of metrics that you've done. Another difference is A normal resume can be vague. See, I'm a high performing student, scored very well in my university exams. You can use different adjectives to prove that. But if you're able to be specific and say, I was better than my peers. So I was ranked second in a cohort of 500 plus students, which is the top 0.4%. I also got the merit scholarship for 3 consecutive years. It means that you have somehow surpassed your peers in a couple of areas. So that is usually seen in a consulting resume. If you don't provide the numbers, they will invent their own assumption that, your numbers were small. If you're not mentioning it, they'll think it was too small or you've not been able to have too much of an impact. Now, again, the question here might arise that, hey, I'm just a fresher. I've just passed out of college, but I've not done something very significantly big. It does not matter. They want to see that even the simplest task that you do, whether it's a college fest or being a part of a society, or doing client calls every day for sales, but your job is only the operational part of it, you have to be able to present it in a way that a consultant would feel that you have created some impact. So that is the difference between a normal and a consulting resume. Again, some people don't mind if you create resumes like this. You put your picture, you use colors, you use pie charts and make it creative. Maybe that works for a marketing agency or an ad agency or a different field that you're applying for. But consultants are pretty boring. They just want to see you write numbers in black and white. You have a typical format, education, business experience, skills. They just want to see the impact that you've created. So again, as you will see more, you will see that there's a stark difference between how a normal resume looks and how you might have to tweak a couple of things in your currently existing resume to make sure that a consultant would be able to see it. So I've also broken down what a resume should look like. So there's a header section. You might have seen that. That's where your name, your email, your contact details should be there. Make sure that that section takes up, say, 5%, the top part of your resume, where you mention your personal details. Education should somehow take 15%, because there'll be about, say, 2 or 3 levels of education: schooling, undergraduation, post-graduation. So maximum you would have 3 or 4 parts to your education piece. And then in work experience, that should take up major part of your resume. So while if you're a fresher, I understand you might not have too many full-time roles to mention, but if you've done even 1 or 2 internships, the impact that you've created through those should be the hero of your resume. Followed by the leadership and extracurricular activities. If you've been part of societies, volunteering, I think resumes which have a lot of volunteering experience are appreciated a lot. If you've been a part of your cultural societies, if you've been part of technical societies, that matters a lot. And if you've managed a team, that also is a very good point to have in your resume. And anything additional in terms of skills. So if you have technical skills, data science, Figma, anything that may not be directly relevant, also you should mention some skills that you have in the last part of your resume. And while there are certain formats and templates that are available online, the one that works the best, not saying that this is the only one, is that anything that is a 500, 600 word count resume, the font should be Times New Roman, 10 point. Again, that's up to you, but this usually works well. And an optimal bullet length. So you must have seen that for each of the parts of your resume, whether it's the work experience or say the leadership and extracurriculars, there are bullet points. So the bullet length should not exceed more than 1.5 lines. The moment you explain a story, people will not be interested to know about what you've done in that company. It'll be too long for somebody to read. So this is usually the measurements that work best. Not saying that this is a standard rule or there's a format or template, but like I said, this works the best. This is something that I found online, which might also be helpful. So this is a heat map that kind of also goes through the different, critical areas that consultants and people look at. So, for example, education. Yale School of Management is supposed to be a big university. So they look for these kind of pointers. If you're from an IIT or if you're from a top university, they do look at that. While I'm not saying that that should be a deal breaker, but they do look at such good universities at the top. Then if you say that your GPAs, if you've been able to get a 4.5 or a 9 GPA or a 10 GPA, that would be something that would catch the eye of the screener. then they might say, oh, you're in the top 10% of your class. There are certain standard numbers that they might look for. In terms of the companies, they might look, oh, hey, you've done an internship or a full-time experience in a big company like Deloitte or one of the big four or one of the consulting firms. They might look at what kind of impact you've created. Have you been able to cut down the budget of your client from, say, X to 10% of X, something like that? They look for these kind of numbers and impact throughout the resume. So I'll share, when I share this with you, you guys can take a look and see that, hey, they're looking at these areas, and this is what applies across the world, not just in India, even in the US, they look at these kind of keywords to see how well somebody who's applying would be for the role that they're applying for. So now let's talk a little bit about the different bullet points. So when we had mentioned that the bullet point should not exceed 1.5 lines, we also need to understand how do we create the right messaging. So I'm somebody, when I worked in EY, I was in tech consulting. So I spent about 6 to 8 months working on different projects there. Mine was a big technical role, but I needed to kind of talk about what the real impact was. So there's this framework that works really well online. Also, you would be seeing this framework. It's called the AIR format. I'll speak a little more on that. A is action, I is impact, and R is result. So any bullet point that you have in your work experience or your leadership, the action should be, what did you actually do? So did you, I worked on X project. So that would be the action. What impact did it create? So it increased the revenue of the company from X to 100X. And the result, what outcome did it drive? So the impact and result are somewhat similar, but suppose you've also managed a team in the middle, that can come in the impact. I'll show you an example on the next slide. For example, managed consulting engagements. That is the action that you've done with P&L responsibilities. That is the impact. And the result is generating a profit of $700,000, exceeded profitability goal by 8%. So this is the format. Typically, it might come with different words, but this is the same format that everybody uses, that they first talk about the action, the impact that it had, and the overall result. So that would hold true for your work experience, for your leadership, for any college fest that you've conducted. For all of this, the format remains the same. Let's look at a good resume that kind of passed. This is a McKinsey approved resume that I found online. So if you see that the language that they've used, if you see in Yale School of Management, 800 by 800 on 800 was his GRE score, which is a great thing. Then distinction, top 10% of the class, pro bono consultant for the mental health center. So he's also spoken about the different activities that they've done there. And then University of Illinois, Yale School, these are all big names. The location, the year, that has been clearly mentioned. So when somebody is talking so well about the experience that they've had, it automatically gets screened in a good way. Let's talk a little more on their work experience. If you see reduced overhead by 20% for an online news media company by leading a cross-functional team to migrate the client's financial operations to a shared service model. If you see the length of this bullet, it's about 1.5. It's still a bit long, but it's able to cover everything that that person has done as a part of the company. Similarly, sticking by the same company, so that this person has been in Deloitte for the last 5 years, has been able to clearly differentiate between his roles as a senior consultant, as a consultant, and as an analyst. So this kind of structure is something that is very appreciated. And the city has been mentioned. The points talk very well about what work they've done. I'll share this so you'll be able to get a better view. Again, there is no fixed rule that you have to follow a particular format. You need to follow certain words, but there are some don'ts. More than do's, you should know what you should not do. Like a long bullet or a very vague kind of sentence, you should not do those things. Baki, it's your resume, you know best what you've done, and you have all the time to create your resume. So that's the only advantage that you have. You will be applying, say, ongoingly, maybe from today, tomorrow, you must be applying every day, but you have all the time in the world to create the resume. After that stage, everything is time bound. Your interviews, your cover letter, different application forms that you fill. But the first step, which is creating the resume, gives you maximum time to think of what you've done. So I think you should spend your time on first listing down all that you've done and then creating it in a format that could be readable by the consultant. Let's also look at a resume that failed. So somebody had written expected grade first in finale, 2:1 in prelims. Now, this language we don't know about. So a University of Oxford might be different from, say, an IIT or a DU or some college in India. So there needs to be a very common language that you use for a recruiter. Now, if we're applying for a consulting firm in India, the grading systems for different universities is different. But make sure that you have a very common language, that you got a GPA of X out of 10, 9 out of 10, or 4.5 out of 5, and you were in the top X% of your class. So those things matter quite a lot. If you write this is a very vague sentence, the recruiter would feel, okay, I don't know what this person is talking about. Similarly, if you see the different words that they've used, what kind of conducted market research on a collaboration with an international insurance provider. This does not give us any view on the impact that that person has had, what kind of collaboration we are talking about. And since we don't know the company here, Shape A/S, we can't even make assumptions that this is what the person would have done. So I think these kind of words need to be a little more taken care of. Second is formatting. So a very underrated part of a resume is formatting, typos, grammar. If you see here, the university timing, he's written OCT October 2012, but here in the full-time work experience, he's writing August 2014. So we need to make sure that even the formatting, even the dot on the I should be correct. There should be no typo. There should be no grammatical errors. Put it through your online tools. Formatting, you will have to see on your own that, the pointers should be fine. So those things put a very bad impression or a bitter taste in the mouth for the recruiter when they look at your resume. So there's a lot of errors that somebody has pointed out. So there are pointers which the formatting doesn't seem okay. The date format does not seem okay. So overall, we don't want to get rejected because our format is not right. So this is something to learn from. I'll share this with you. You can take a look yourself. And now to the last part, I don't want to talk too much on the format of the resume, but a few things that we should keep in mind. Do not fall for consulting jargons. You must have heard a lot, deep dive into the ecosystem. Although I do it for a living every day, I'm just saying that you should not use such words in your resume. If you've done 500 plus customer data points, just write that in the resume. Nobody cares about these big jargons. Revolutionize the framework, things like that. Designed a new reporting template. You can be very simple and say, I designed a new reporting template. Circle back on deliverables. If you just want to say that you've met weekly deadlines, don't say things like circle back or boiling the ocean or deep dive or revolutionize. Nobody wants to hear your jargons, and it might actually work against you more than not having any impact. I mean, those are things that consultants use, of course, in their job and in their presentations. But when somebody is going through your resume, they want a very raw and unfiltered view of what impact you've created. So do not fall for these consulting jargons. One thing you should do is check, check, and check. So while I told you that you can spend as much time as you want in creating that resume, keep checking it. Take a printout, check the grammar. See, when you're sitting in a flow and creating a resume, I've seen it myself. You don't feel that you've made any mistake. वो पहली नजर में दिखता नहीं है. But as time passes, the more you see it, you will realize that you can make this better. You can make this part of your resume better. The grammar can be better. The pointers can be better. The bullets can be better. So read it 1,000 times in 1,000 different ways. Have your friends read it. Kind of, you can do a peer review. I think a lot of my friends were able to help me, and college seniors were able to help me create a good resume. Improve it. Keep improving it till it's perfect. And then you can start sending it out and applying where you want. So keep checking it. Even a resume that you're creating today, it might be perfect today, but after 6 months, there might be a lot of changes that you might see, not in terms of the work, but in terms of the format that you can do 6 months later. So keep updating your resume according to what you think would be the perfect way to pitch who you are in that one document. And the last tip, naam mein kya rakha hai? I know for a fact that nobody likes seeing file names like resume, final PDF, my CV 2025, your name, what you use, the versions that you have on your laptop. Just keep the naming and nomenclature very simple. First name, last name, job title, resume. Or even first name, last name, resume is fine. Do not apply for a job with the file that you've saved it on your desktop, because that also puts a very bad impression. I've seen recruiters who've not wanted to open files because of the very complex name that people have come up with. So if you keep all these tips in mind, spend a lot of time, in creating your resume, building your skills, your experience, and being able to convey that in a resume, I think you are good. Even companies, even senior leadership, they always tell you that it does not exist until you document it. So even if you've created a lot of impact in whatever work that you've done, whether it's your everyday work or a specialized project that you've worked on, just make sure that you're documenting it in a right format. In this case, we're talking about a resume. So that documentation needs to be perfect. Even when you're sitting in an interview, before they see your face, they will see your resume. So you need to make sure that it speaks for you in your absence. Keep it one page. A lot of people try to keep it 2-3 pages. Nobody cares about a 2-page resume. You might have done a lot of things, but try to make it concise. And I'll share a couple of formats. In fact, I have one with me right now. Let me just share my tab. So in this one, this is an associate at Boston Consulting Group. This got Rutu, this person, an interview and eventually a job at BCG. He kept it very simple. So the header is his personal information, followed by the education and achievements. If you see, he's highlighted the numbers that, out of 9 students of 2,500 plus got an honorable mention, top 1%, led a direct internship offer. All these are keywords that person has been very careful to use. Professional experience, CEO office, Revolut. Revolut might not be a known brand to everyone, but has been able to say what kind of impact that the candidate has created in your internships. In terms of leadership, that person was part of the placement cell. So creating the different impact points, he's done it well. And this has been able to get him a job at BCG, which is one of the top consulting firms. So I'll share a couple of these samples. There's another, a booklet that Harvard has created on how to create a resume. Keep reading all of this information. There's a lot of information online, but don't get too confused. The resume ultimately is your decision how you want to present it. But there are certain don'ts, like I said, that, don't make it too long, don't make it too detailed. So use those don'ts and create your own resume, and I think you're good. Nobody can tell you better to make your resume than yourself. So I think that would be my last thought. Happy to take any questions. I hope I didn't want to make it a very long session, so I'll stop here.
Yeah, before we take questions, thank you very much for covering the theme in such a great detail. And we can clearly see that effort you have put in researching the topic and creating such a promising presentation. So let's start with the Q&A session. So I would request everyone to keep their question concise and strictly related to the topic, and so that we can make this discussion very effective. So let's start with VSR.
Hi, Ankita. Thank you very much for this session. So I had this question that I had been in recent talks with one of the Barclays senior executive, and as I shared my resume with him, he said that my resume is not in a particular format that is particular to Indian companies, and I didn't understand that because I was using a format that is suggested by Harvard specifically, and I had been able to secure a same JP Morgan internship from the same, but it didn't work for me in any Indian company. So, like, is there a real difference between the two because they asked for a more tabular format for Indian companies and internships?
I think that's a great question. And you are right. Some companies have their own formats. It will not be a very, very, very different format, but they do have certain, like you said, they might require tabular format for the education. So the ATS remains the same across all of these companies, but there are certain things in terms of formatting that they might look for. So it's good that you're talking to a senior in Barclays. Indian and global, yes, there will be a huge difference. Indian companies usually don't follow the same as, say, a Harvard. It's good to take reference from the Harvard resumes, but you should see more formats of Indian students who have made it to the top consulting firms. So there is a difference in terms of formatting majorly. The pointers and the way you explain your experience would remain the same, but see a few examples of how Indians make their resume. You will not find a very stark difference, because I've made my resume for a couple of consulting firms and used the same resume and got interview calls from using the same resume.
All right,
So
thank
just
you.
check the format. I think the only problem would be with the format. And it's good that if you have a connect in the company, they would be able to give you a better view that this is what they'll look for in a tabular form, but it will not be a 100% deviation from what you've created.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, Anushka, go ahead and ask your question.
Hello, thank you for the session, ma'am. Ma'am, my question is that I am currently a third year student pursuing my degree, but like whenever I compare my resume with other resumes, I see like they have a lot of experience, while I, as a student, possess less of an experience. Like I have done just one intern currently till now, so like that is all for me to truthfully add to the resume. So like as a student, can I do something to make up for that?
I think upskilling is your best option. While you might be able to explain the one or two projects, and I'm sure you've done some good work in those, but keep upskilling and doing projects. I don't know what field you are in, but keep doing projects, keep trying to upskill yourself, because the moment you have those skills, you can automatically reflect that in your resume. Do something different. If you are in tech, do some Python projects or whatever you're working on, full stack and stuff like that. If you're in non-tech, there are different internships, online internship, virtual internship. The good thing about virtual internships is it's more of a course. So take more courses while you are a student. Try upskilling, learn a new language, a coding language, or learn a new skill, and then add that to the resume. You would feel the heavy weight of your resume once you've upskilled. But don't compare your resume with your peers, because I'll tell you, a lot of people work on different things. You need not have the most number of experience points, but the most impactful. So just keep upskilling. I think that would be your best bet on a good resume.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Hi, Ankita.
Hi, Kavya.
So I have few questions. First is regarding switching, not switching. So I am doing my MBA and I want to switch to product marketing. So I don't have any related stuff or related, what do I say, uh, experience, because I have been into business development or something sort of that, promotions. So my question is that how to ask for internship, or rather how can I go about that? Even I tried putting it on ChatGPT, so it said that you need to self initiate. So I want to know your take on this.
So I think that's a great question, and everybody's journey is different. I think we also switch industries. The thing about switching to a new industry is, while it is an experiment in terms of reaching out to a company and reaching out for internships, we should also do a bit of upskilling. What I was telling before, product management itself is a huge area. It's an up and coming area. While your work experience might not be very much in line with product management, you can see what kind of skills are required in product management. See if there must be some common factor between your current business development and product management. I'm sure there must be something small, even if it's not major. You can try to reframe the work that you've done with the intention of getting into product management. Do a couple of projects, online courses. If you're able to add some keywords that make it look very attractive for product management, then I think you'll be able to crack an internship, full-time experience. They do look for, because product management 10 years back, it did not exist as an industry.
Mm-hmm.
In the last 10 years it's become, so that gives you the freedom to experiment. Same thing with VC. I had no VC experience, but entering a VC, I was able to think of the different things that I've done in my projects or in my job that could bring in some entrepreneurial aspect for VC. So similarly, I'm not the best answer. I can't have the best answer for what works in product management, but you will be able to find certain common points, as well as do some projects, courses that can help you project that product management side of your resume. You can still be a complete fresher. I mean, I'm sure that you don't have to force and say that, hey, I have done this in product management, but doing some courses will definitely help. There are a lot of
And
fellowships that are there. You can pick up a fellowship and mention that as well.
sure, and the amount of what do I say, marks one has. So it's like degrees versus skills. So how much marks one has to gain in an MBA or the undergrad, so that there is no problem or there is no shortlisting. Because I am very good at speaking, but when it comes to academics, I am good, but sometimes the luck doesn't favors me. So it turns to be a little less. So at times it has happened. So I just want to know that what is the safe zone to get into your dream company?
So each of the companies have a different criteria. It's not like MBA colleges where they have a fixed percentage for the score that you get in your school or university. Each
Mm-hmm.
has its own criteria. It's okay if you've not done if you're not on the merit list or not in the top 1% of it's okay. You can mention that you've got this much GPA at the end of the year. You should not mention it, but you can focus more on the impact parts of your resume. So your work experience, your projects, your extracurriculars. If you're good at speaking, you must have done a lot of extracurriculars. Focus on that. Every company has their own criteria. There's no one size fits all.
Okay, okay. Thank you, Ankita.
Yeah, Dakshita, go ahead with your question.
Yeah, hi. I wanted to ask, like you mentioned, in resume, we have to quantify our achievements, right? So I wanted to ask how important it is for the companies to, like, we have it in, should we have it in written as well from our prior company that we have done so and so for so and so people? Like, how do we justify those numbers, whatever we mentioned?
Great. So companies might or might not do a background check. So a lot of once you've done your job and see, you might be applying for a job while you already have a job in your hand, but make sure that the numbers are very close to what you've actually done, because Kalko, if the new company does a background check, these numbers need to be justified, verified. What some people also do is once they exit a company, the letter of recommendation or whatever documents that they get out of the company that they're working at, they usually get these pointers approved on email from the HR or from their manager in the current company. So it is good to have to be in practice where those numbers are, you have that numbers on email or on your letter of recommendation that you have truly achieved those. And in case a background check happens, your current manager will be able to justify it, saying that yes, this person has done it. So you should get.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Avni, go ahead with your question.
Sure. Firstly, Ankita, thanks for the session. It was really insightful and I gained a lot of knowledge. So I'd like to ask that as I'm in first year and a lot of students are, one of our main questions, or I'd say curiosity, is how to be the very best, how to be unique in what we're doing, because that is the very starting edge that could lead to anywhere. So there is always a feeling that, I'm not doing something different or I'm just in the same track as everyone. So what do you really recommend for us to focus upon if we really want good companies to hire us in the future?
No, that's a great question. So being in the first year, actually for you, it's not a pressure. I'll tell you why. It is the first year is for you to you have the freedom to experiment. Join all your college societies, start doing whatever courses that your seniors are saying are good, product management, tech, learn a bit of everything. In that first year, you have the freedom to experiment as much as you want. What that will help you do is at the end of the first year, you will get to say, okay, out of the 8 societies, whether it's cultural or technical or volunteer, I realized that I like these 2. Then you narrow down that, okay, in the second year, I would continue in these societies or in these skills. I will try to upskill myself. And that then becomes your funnel or filter into upskilling and creating a niche for yourself. Again, your journey is only yours. Your peers and you might have similar journeys, but all the combinations of the things you do would be very specific to what you want to do. So in the first year, use your time in experimenting with everything. Join all your societies, join courses, see what skills work. You don't need to decide what career you want to take up in the first year. You don't need to decide what you want to do next after college. Do you want to pursue an MBA? You don't have to do anything in the first year. Keep your mind free and keep experimenting. That's what I did, and that's what my friends as well did. I think we've been able to crack. Even today, I don't know if I want to continue in the job that I'm doing right now, but at least the first, second, third year was really helpful for me to create that filter that in the fourth year I could sit for non-tech consulting interviews. So use your first year to experiment. That would be my suggestion.
Sure. Thanks. That helps a lot. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Tanishka, go ahead with your question.
Hello, ma'am. It's Tanishka this side. Thank
Hi.
you for your insightful presentation. So, my question is for freshers, what compensate for limited work experience during shortlisting, especially for second and third years?
Are you asking this for an internship or a full-time experience, full-time job?
Internship, ma'am.
Yes, so for internship, so when you apply for an internship, they do not see the quantum of work experience that you've done. Your projects and your skills matter the most, and your leadership and extracurriculars. So in internships, that's what matters the most. So if you're building your extracurriculars, if you're building your projects, I think that should be more than enough. You don't have to have, 2 years of internship experience in your first or second year. It can
And
be the
ma'am,
first
one more question.
internship that you're applying for. It can be the first internship that you're applying for. So just focus on your skills and your projects. That would be the main thing.
Okay, ma'am. One more question that I had was, when shortlisting interns, do recruiters prioritize potential and learning ability over prior experience?
Yes, they do, but that potential and learning ability is something that they would be able to test only during the interview stage. They will not be able to look at your resume and figure out if you have the potential to learn. Yes, the impact would matter. Acha, even if you've done, if you've been a part of a drive, a volunteer drive for 10 days, that the fact that you've been able to do that and you've created some impact, that would matter more from a resume standpoint. They don't know you. When they know you and when they talk to you, that's when they will try to figure out if you have the potential to learn. But the interns, for example, my company hires, we look at during the interview stage how much the potential is to learn. So we don't reject somebody because their skills are not there or they don't have projects. While we do have our own checks, we also look at interns from a holistic point of view, that their resume is good, they're able to say that they want to learn. So that'll come on the interview stage. That's my point.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Yeah, Gaurav, go ahead with your question.
Hi, Ankita. Thank you for the top tier training session. It was really great session. And my question is ki I have a stability concern in my resume. Like in 3 years of WorkX, I have changed around 4 to 5 companies. And how to address it? Like my CV should get shortlisted. And second is ki if there is any WorkX of about 1 or 2 months, so should I put it in my CV or not? Like EPFO checking is done by recruiters or the HR side also. Yes.
So yes, I think.
Once in a while, you'll
I,
be practicing your
Avni, are you saying something? Okay, so that is a very valid question, because now I think you're also lucky that during this time everybody's switching. So the maximum loyalty that people nowadays are showing to their companies is that 1 year, 1.5 years. So switching is completely fine, but you will have to make sure, and that is a personal journey that you will have to somehow portray in your resume, that you've created some impact in that 1 year, how you've created that. Do not mention your 2 or 3. I mean, if it is somewhere in the middle and you feel that it might create a gap, then you should mention. But if it is, say, your latest experience is only 2-3 months, it's okay if you mention it, but be ready to justify it. Right now, even my friends who are recruiters have told me that it's not, the career changes will not be considered as a reason for elimination, but it will be questioned during your interview time. So you'll have to smartly present it uh, based on your journey and what kind of impact that you've had. You'll have to smartly present it, but it should not be a problem, because nowadays everyone is switching, and companies don't expect you to be loyal either.
Okay, my question is like, in my resume, should I put my reason, like reason for exit within 6 months or within
No.
9 months? No, nothing like that.
No, not in your resume. No.
Okay, and second thing, if there is a career gap between the two jobs for around 2 or 3 months, like if I'm,
That's okay.
that's okay.
That
Recruiters
will not
don't.
be penalized. They will not hold it against you, that you will just have to explain it, but they will not hold, that is not a reason for elimination.
Okay, and second thing, recruiters go for EPFO check or service record of the person nowadays or not?
They do that. EPFO, they do check, but that will not be at stage 1. That will be while you're being interviewed. That's a very strong check, because the companies don't want to be non-compliant. So they will check that, but at a later stage.
Okay, thanks a lot. Thank you.
But if you're able to, but do justify if there is some issue over there with your PF and everything, you should be able to explain that.
Okay. Thank you. Got it. Thanks a lot.
Sure.
Yeah, Lucas, go ahead with your question.
Good evening, Ankita. Lucas this side from Tapni. I'm currently pursuing my MBA in second year. So my question would be actually the thing is, in this age when we are as a fresher pursuing MBA and right now I'm going through placements, we are very fickle-minded. And also right now our only target is to get placed in some good company. But that
Right.
doesn't have to align with the life goals or what we want to achieve. So my point is that once we join a company, what do you think will be the right time to switch our careers? Like, for example, I've heard many people say that maybe when you are working in a company and you have stayed for more than 2 years or so, after that switching gets very difficult, and companies don't tend to accept you. So my what's your thought on this? That what is the right time to switch to any other role or maybe any other industry or company after you have joined some company currently
So
as a fresher?
again, right time is a complete personal journey. I will tell you about myself. I joined EY. I did not like the work. I switched in 6 months. For me, that was I tried my best. I decided myself in my head that I will give it 6 months. It did not work for me. That can be 3 months for somebody, or it can be 1 year for somebody. But in 6 months for me, I was done. So again, that was the shorter time. When you look at 2 years, the reason why people say that it's difficult to switch is because you enter a comfort zone within your company. In my company now, I'm in a comfort zone. Now when I come to a stage where I would be looking to switch, I need to make sure that I come out of that comfort zone. I prepare, I customize my preparation and my resume for a new company. I might not know if I want to switch an industry or job right now, but that timeline of 2 years, 5 years, 6 months, it changes from person to person. But the good thing about today's job market is that nobody questions you for how loyal you've been to a company. If you're there for 2 years, great. If you're there for 6 months, they will ask you why you left in 6 months, but you should have an answer in a moment. Again, so it's a very personalized journey. I told you about myself. I gave myself 6 months in consulting. I've given myself more than 3 years here, and I'm enjoying the work. So, and I'm in that comfort zone. When I want to switch, maybe things would be different. It's a completely personal journey.
Ma'am, when you're talking about like a comfort zone, it's something like comes in personal. But I mean,
Yes.
that's your thought process. Like for example, like that's something we decide that maybe we are comfortable with this, so that's why we are not able to switch if we want to. But my point is, what if now we have actually attained that mindset that we want to switch and then apply for different job roles after
Yeah.
maybe 2 years? Will the company accept us as is because, or they will think that maybe this guy has stayed for long in this company, so
No, they
he
don't think
can't be
that.
molded.
No, they don't think like that. And I'll tell you one thing, comfort zone, I was not talking about my personal comfort zone. Every employee who has spent more than a certain amount in a company, the company puts you in a comfort zone. That you are comfortable with your daily responsibilities, whether it's me, whether it's you or anybody else. You become comfortable according to what your company and your job responsibility is. So you will have to come out of that comfort zone. Ki I want to try something different. I want to upskill myself. So after that, the company will not judge you for spending a certain amount of time. Like I said, if you spend 2, 3 years, in fact, that might work in your favor. They might think that you are loyal to your company, you will be loyal to us as well. But there's a lot of unlearning that you have to do. The comfort zone is something that the company creates for you. It's not what you create for yourself.
Continuing with the questions, for example, like an example I'm taking, considering that
Hmm.
maybe right now I'm getting placed in a BFSI sector, which I
Hmm.
currently I'm working for because I'm getting paid, but I don't want in a long run.
Hmm.
Now I want to switch into FMCG. Like
Hmm.
after 3 years, will it be possible for me to switch into FMCG easily, or will I face some kind of struggle? Because I have gone through some people's LinkedIn. I've seen that once they get into any industry and they stay for long, it's like maybe someone is switching from ICICI Bank to HDFC Bank to HDFC to Citibank to any other banks. Like they are not able to change the industry even though they're changing the company. So my doubt is on that.
Yeah, so that again, I'm not an expert, but what I can tell you is that there might be certain bit of backtracking that you will have to do. You will become a fresher in FMCG, so you might have to make some compromises in terms of, say, a job title or maybe salary. Of course, I won't talk about that. I don't know how that would work, but more in terms of unlearning. Like I said, that you might have to, when you're switching industries, there'll be a lot of humility that you will have to bring in yourself, that you're starting from scratch. But a lot of people change their industry every day, And now with especially our generation who are right now in our first, second, third job, fifth job, we understand that, switching would be the best possible outcome for us. And this is happening quite frequently. So it's not like it's a new thing that somebody's switching from BFSI to FMCG. Yes, there will be a lot of setback in terms of your mindset. You've reached a certain scale with BFSI. It might not work the same way in FMCG, but you should be prepared for that. And I think our 20s and early 30s is the time to do that. A lot of people in their 40s also switch industry. In my company also, I have people in their 40s who are starting from scratch. So I think it is a mindset change and what the industry demands from you.
Understood. Thank you so much.
Shall I go now? I had this question that I have not appeared for so many consulting, maybe interviews or maybe candidature, and I'm not able to make out that most of the resumes that I've seen are being qualified in McKinsey or MBBs of the world are not actually coming from a consulting background or a consulting experience in hand. So I've seen people who have just done marketing internships at Google and then still they are cracking McKinsey. I'm not saying they don't have that strong knowledge in consulting, but they are not coming as strong as any other candidate who I can think of. And most of these people in my peers are actually cracking internships without a prior experience. So I didn't understand what actually the process of consulting interviews is. Means like, do you actually need to show that you have the knowledge, or it's just that you did some work in the past and you need to show that you were active? Now you want to enter into this particular industry, and the company is ready to train us for this.
So the good thing about being in consulting is that you don't have to have any prior experience in consulting. They look for people who are ready to experiment, ready to learn, who've done different things, who've created some impact. So usually consulting they don't look at previous experience, especially for the analyst, senior analyst, associate consultant roles. People switch industries and move to consulting from absolutely different, manufacturing and FMCG and a very different background. So no, so consultants, they don't look for people who've done some kind of consulting before, because consulting in general, more than a vertical, it is more of a horizontal. You like if you say FMCG, finance, these are all verticals and industries that already exist. Consulting cuts across all of these. So they look for people who've done some kind of work, not even if it's not front facing. If you're a data scientist and you want to get into non-tech consulting, they will still see your application because they would want somebody with a different mindset and who can think differently. So the short answer is that no, they don't look at prior consulting experience, especially in the early parts of your career.
Okay, just to follow up. So, okay, I get what you just said, but let's take up an example. If someone, as I earlier mentioned, is coming from marketing, with a marketing background,
Yeah.
maybe with 2 years. So, is it a high chance that now, if he joins a consulting firm, he'll be looked up for a marketing team only, or something that related to marketing consulting, or he can actually switch between roles and functional departments?
So there might be some difference in terms of tech, tax, audit. That requires a different skill set in a consulting firm, audit and tax and tech. So having some tech skills, you can't have had only background in marketing and not know a bit of tech to be able to apply for tech consulting. Similarly for audit, for tax. So they look for some skill match in terms of the specialized verticals, but it does not mean that somebody who's done marketing would enter consulting into a marketing team. They don't do that. They will align you with a team where you can learn and where you can start from scratch. So you need to start from scratch in consulting. Your marketing experience and everything might help you think in a certain way, but you will have to start from scratch as an associate consultant or as a senior analyst. So they look for completely freshers, people with different minds who worked at different areas, unless it's a very specialized field within consulting, like tax or tech.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah, given that we don't have any more questions, so I have one question for you, Ankita. So as our audience is from college, so we all would like to understand what was your professional journey from your college, and how your day typically looks like at India Accelerator, and what kind of work you do, and how exciting you feel when you're working, and did you imagine this kind of work in your college?
Thanks a lot for that question. So I had no idea about VCs or accelerators or anything in college. In my first year, like I was telling somebody on this call only, I joined all the societies. So I've done engineering, so I joined a couple of tech societies, Enactus, which a lot of you might be knowing if you're in college. I joined Enactus. I joined a couple of other non-tech societies also. And in the first year, I was completely active in a lot of extracurriculars to figure out where I want to be. Then I kind of progressed with one society, which is Enactus, which is a social entrepreneurship vertical. That kind of also brought in an entrepreneurial bug in me that maybe I want to try something on this side. India Accelerator happened by chance. There was an internship fair. I had no idea about VCs. I knew about startups because that's when the buzzwords of startups, Zomato and everything had started. So I had interviewed as a part of the internship fair at India Accelerator, somehow ended up getting an internship here. I did my first internship in India Accelerator. It was very, it was a very different experience because I was talking to investors, I was talking to startups. So it was a very different role for me. Then once I did that, I also sat for my college placements where I sat for EY and ZS. I ended up cracking both, but because I knew a bit of Python, I decided let's go and do a tech consulting role at EY. Did not like it much because it was hardcore tech and I was somebody who liked, extracurriculars and talking and communication. So I came back to India Accelerator in full time. And after that, my journey has been extremely different and fun. We ended up setting up our own funds in 2022. So that was after my college, just after my college. So understanding how a fund is made, how startups are invested in, how do we evaluate a startup, I think that was it was a new learning for me. I also got an opportunity to go to Dubai and set up our company in the UAE. So understanding a different startup ecosystem in Middle East, that was also a huge experience for me. And now after coming back to India, I'm working on a lot of, internal processes. We're fixing our house because now that we're investing in startups, we are more liable to make sure that that investment turns into something good. So that's why we're fixing our house on the internal processes, working on global expansion, working on fund. I think these are really different fields that I'm working on, which also kind of makes me scared that do I become unemployable after this, because it's a very company specific role that I have done. But I'm looking forward to see where this takes me.
This is something that I can see that you are always exploring new opportunities and you never kept your opportunities in closed doors and you kept taking new roles.
Yes.
Okay, that said, we can conclude our session, Ankita. Thank you for taking out your time to join us and sharing such valuable insights from your journey and also telling us what kind of resume we should have in consulting. And that said, thank you for joining, Ankita, once again.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me. And thank you to everyone for joining and listening to me for so long. I don't think I've added too much value, but if you're also thinking 1% different from what you were thinking an hour back, I'm happy. Thank you so much, everyone.
Yeah, thank you, Ankita, for joining. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Thank you. Bye.